For many years now, there has been a very, very prolific and thriving art market across many countries in the Arab world and the Middle East. Not only are there a number of art fairs, such as Art Dubai, for instance, that is a very, very important platform or a gathering place for so many artists and galleries to come from all over the region and beyond to discover some of the art practices that are happening in the region. But there's been always a very, very prolific and diverse art gallery scene, a lot of great collectors who are always participating in international art fairs, but also are exhibiting very important local and international artists in their corresponding cities, Beirut, Cairo, Dubai, Morocco, Casablanca, Marrakesh. There's been an amazing development over the last decade that continues from many decades before, of a very important art gallery scene and collections scene.
One of the questions that we are frequently asked is, what is the role of women in the art scene in the Middle East? What about women artists? And in fact, it's actually a question, once you go, you have the answer immediately in front of you. There are in fact many women, and perhaps even more women than you would find in many countries in Europe, that are not only very prominent artists, but that are also very prominent founders of art organizations, representative of cultural institutions. And in fact, when we were putting together the panel just now on Arab representations at the Biennale in Venice, it is not a coincidence, in fact, that we actually have a female commissioner for the UAE. We have a female artist representing the UAE this year, but also the Danish pavilion shows a female Palestinian artist, and again a female curator was chosen for that. And all institutions are often run by women, and very powerful women. So I think the question is actually one that is having much more a surprising answer than what many would suspect. I think we can truly say that women in the Arab world are very much at the forefront of the art scene and are very much shaping it in a very interesting and active way.
Here at Artissima in 2019 we're presenting two works. It's a big series of collages and a group of sculptures. Both are actually connected also to the concept of performance, and both are also thematically related. Both deal with the idea of history, the notion of history, and how history is constructed, transported, mediated through time. And both have a mutual angle point around the 30 Years' War, which was a period in the 17th century. And on the other side, it also deals with the work of Bertolt Brecht, the famous dramatist and writer, playwright, and his play Mother Courage and Her Children. So I use these historical references in order to speak about topics like war, diplomacy, and what kind of influence historical events like the 30 Years' War in the 17th century had actually on our current society. So this period of time was crucial in Europe because it was the beginning of the idea of the nation state. So even if these events happened some hundreds of years ago, they're actually still very influential because we are living in nation states, and the whole global political situation is actually coined by this idea of a nation state. So this is an idea to combine the past with the present, actually. So this group of sculptures is consisting of 4 bronze arms. It's cast iron arms, and they have these armbinds, and on each armbind you have a different word. So it's like ira for anger, but also tyrannis, and on Latin for tyranny. And so tyranny is like the overall notion, and the other words are actually taken from the 7 deadly sins. And my idea was that the 7 deadly sins, which are considered a sin, of course, are not necessarily negative, because anger is also the energy you need for innovation and for revolution. So if you want to reform things, if you want to change history, anger is not only a bad thing, but can be a very decisive and positive thing. So at the same time, avaritia in Latin, it's avarice in English, can be also the cause for war or for suppression. So It's the ambiguity between these notions, between these words, that was interesting for me, that you cannot immediately clearly say that something is negative, but everything has like two sides and can be utilized also in a positive way.
Siamo in un'interessante realtà di una galleria di Jeddah che ha già portato avanti diversi esponenti di spicco in quella che noi chiamiamo la nuova arte dell'Arabia Saudita, per forza, per energia, per quello che consideriamo noi europei quasi una necessità di avere nuovi incontri con queste importanti realtà del mondo contemporaneo. Nell'interessante opera che vediamo come allestimento di questo interessante artista saudita, troviamo un effetto discendente e un'esplosione, una forte esplosione che va a influenzare anche quelli che sono i laterali di questo allestimento. Ricordiamo che l'artista sta esponendo fortemente alla gamma con una forte un'importante performance legata a quello che è anche il mondo dei migranti, quindi le relazioni attraverso la materia e quelli che sono invece i tocchi di pittura ci riportano a un tema molto attuale, cioè quello di un riferimento di ritorno alla pittura, che non deve però ovviamente ignorare quelli che sono i temi oggi affrontati delle tecniche contemporanee, appunto in un riferimento più tradizionale alla pittura stessa. Ora chiederò, the question is about your life, artistic life, and about your works, very good works in Artissima Turin.
My name is Mohamed Shono. I'm a Saudi artist from Saudi Arabia. I was born in Riyadh, and I've been practicing full-time art since 2016. It's a great honor to be here in Torino in Artissima. It's my first time, and it's been a wonderful experience. I have an installation right now in GAM, a public commission in the garden, and now here at Artissima, this site-specific installation that we started 2 days ago. I mean, I started off as an illustrator, and I'm interested in kind of working with the unknown and reacting to space and ideas in a very kind of spontaneous, in the spur of the moment kind of fashion. And for me, these pipes are a form of, they're a byproduct of oil, which is a form of soft power in Saudi Arabia that we're trying to move away from. And I'm interested in using this form of the line to create flow, movement, and transformation within space. The public commission in the garden, the title is The Caliph Seeks Asylum, and it speaks about this relationship right now between the West and the Middle East in terms of an outflux of fighters who are joining movements like the ISIS state, and the resulting migration of people into Europe. So this kind of tension between both worlds, our attempt in the Middle East to export this kind of ideology and push it out and get rid of it. But where does it go? So there's a tension between people and countries right now. So that installation is up in GAM since 2-3 days ago. Very interested in exploring and having a playful approach to materials. Also because I'm a migrant to Saudi Arabia. I was born in Saudi Arabia, but my parents are originally from southern Russia and Syria. So this lack of loyalty I have to a place, in a way, I'm interested in not committing to a material or a land and having a global voice, hopefully, and being able to work with random materials and use things that are usually neglected or ignored. Our future projects coming up, right now there's a project with robotics, with movement, kinetic sculpture. Also the pipes are going to happen in the desert in Saudi Arabia, but on a larger scale, 60,000 pipes. So that's happening in January. I also do works ink on paper in a sculptural sense, kind of redefining the idea of narrative and stories. So a constant exploration of materials and approaches.
Bria Braverman di Tel Aviv, e siamo attratti dalle interessanti opere che sembrano guardare al passato ma con un forte rinnovamento, e allora la mia domanda è quella proprio relativa alle scelte di questa galleria relative agli artisti che loro trattano.
I represent both Israelis and non-Israeli artists. It's all based on my my taste. If I find it interesting, I will represent this specific artist. In this specific case, I choose Summer Wheat. I saw her in New York 5 years ago in an art fair, and I loved the technique, the way she used color. She invented this special technique by incorporating acrylic paint on top of an aluminum net. So the outcome is a beautiful tapestry, but it's a painting actually, it's not a tapestry. It feels like tapestry, but it's not. And she's asking questions about place of women in society. Now we approach this imagery of women, especially inside the Western countries, using this non-traditional imagery, technique, style. So, and we decided to come here with a group of artists, both Israelis and non-Israelis, that are asking questions about this specific style or technique that are coming, that are relating to old masters. Let's say we have David Adika is taking these portraits of African ladies, but it's interesting that it was made by an Israeli company in the 60s. So it's an idea of the African, but it's not a real African. Also, we have Ruth Patir, who chose sculptures from the collection of Moshe Dayan, who used to be the head of the army in Israel.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, so Moshe Dayan actually excavated these sculptures and had them in his own collection. And his wife, after he died, sold it to the Israeli collection. The artists choose to scan them, photograph them, and animate them in a way that brings this women style into life in a very interesting way.
Yeah.
And we have Oren Eliav, which is a famous Israeli painter. He's going to have a solo show here in Italy, in Milan, next year. And he's using this old masters imagery, paintings by Rubens, Velasquez, and other important painter, and creating this dialogue and asking how a painting should look like if it would paint it today with the same concepts and ideas. So it's in between contemporary and non-contemporary, made by contemporary artists. Yes, so this is Bracha Ettinger. She's actually has a few pieces in the collection of Castello de Rivoli. It's now on view, so you have a chance to see it.
Okay.
She's a very famous psychoanalyst that also paints beautiful, long process paintings dealing with questions of trauma. So for her, the idea of painting, it's all about dealing with the idea of healing. How can we deal with trauma by doing this act of art? And she started painting usually by choosing an image from our collective memory, trauma collective memory, or her own biography, and started to paint it. And then she actually erased it layer by layer. And a few years after she started to paint the painting, a new image started to appear. And the new image is actually an image of the healing process. So she's very, very special and unique. We focus a lot on women art, but we also have men, but we really embrace women artists that does good art. So this is also one of our main goals.
E quindi un grazie ovviamente, riteniamo questa galleria di grande impatto perché tutte le opere le riteniamo all'altezza di una scelta molto molto coerente. Quindi thank you and enjoy in Italy. Thank you.